A pattern that can show complex shapes and be fed through a sewing machine requires lots of divisions. Placing these seams can be intimidating, but here are a few guidelines. Like everything with crafting, these are just suggestions and should be altered to fit your needs and style. I start by sketching the major divisions of the head in a light color, usually blue or red. Where there's a peak, a valley, where the fur changes direction, where the pieces become too large for me to comfortably move through a sewing machine, and where the character has markings. Later, I'll go back with a black marker when I've decided which of these seams I want to use. I like to think of my seams as one of three types: functional, character, and hybrid. Functional seams make my life easier. These seams are about making the pattern lay flat and splitting it into manageable pieces. The seam across the top of the nose wrinkle is functional. It divides this complex shape into two pieces that can lay flat. It also creates one long seam that I can feed through a sewing machine. Character seams are all about adding markings. This guy is a skull-themed chow chow, so he has a black marking on the bridge of his muzzle to imitate the nasal cavity. There is no airbrushing on this head, so the only way to get this change of color is to sew in a different piece of fur. This requires a seam. Hybrid seams are the best. When a marking can line up with a functional seam, sewing becomes much easier and our seams disappear. The nasal cavity marking of this character aligns with the dip created by joining the bridge and the jowls. One seam will allow us to change the fur color and create a division that will allow our pattern to lay flat. Sometimes you can't avoid adding a large seam in an obvious location. When that happens, treat those functional seams like character seams. Draw them so they flow with the shape of the head. A circle with sharp ears and snout? Make those seams come to a point. A puppy with round cheeks and floppy ears? Curve those seams to emphasize how soft your character is. If you're having a difficult time determining if a pattern piece needs a seam, you can sketch the seam while the pattern piece is still on the head and cut it only if the piece won't lay flat once removed. Over-label your pattern pieces. Once the pattern is off the head, it becomes a puzzle, so give yourself as many clues as possible. At minimum, all pattern pieces should have a label for the fur color, the direction of the fur, the part of the head the pattern is coming from, and at least one registration mark. Registration marks are small lines used to align pieces when reconstructing the pattern. When a seam is very long or complex, I will add additional registration marks. When I sense that construction will be especially difficult, I will often draw a little symbol near these registration marks. Matching these little symbols removes the guesswork. Before I remove the pattern from the head, I will take pictures and video. This gives me something to refer back to if I begin to struggle with my pattern. And that's it. I hope this helped. Patterning a fursuit head can be intimidating at first, but like all art, it becomes much easier with practice. Thanks for watching.